Starfleet Underground. Every week, we'll take a look at the latest Star Trek news and then check out a current or classic episode of Star Trek. This week, proper celebrity bathroom etiquette. Hugh and Picard reunite. Killer RUBIX Cubes. Raffi's got some skills. Picard freaks out a little. Also, when it sounds like we're talking about interfacing, we're actually talking about interfacing.
Good day, and welcome back, everyone, to Starfleet Underground. We talk about a lot of exciting things this time, and we are just overjoyed and can't wait to talk with you about the stuff that happened on this episode of Pic-Hard. So we have the gang all here. Captain Hall has made it back. Good morning, Captain Hall.
Good morning. Thanks for having me back, guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming back. Thank you also for bringing Fred's Glommers, because they're in high demand on the ship. And we all know why, because of all the friggin' tribbles that are all over the place. And good morning, Heather. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. And Fred?
Hey, everyone. Welcome back. And I'm happy to hear that the Glommers are doing their job.
Finally, this is the first morning I didn't step on one. So I'm quite happy about that.
Of course, we might have to put the Glommers on an exercise program. I mean, yeah, they're
getting kind of chunky.
Tribbles. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they are. I saw one in the corner of the room, kind of almost looking like Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba the Glommer.
Jabba the Glommer. A Tribble rolled by, and it was just too fat and lazy to actually even reach out and get it. So that's a good thing. And how about you, Rocky? How are you doing today?
I am doing good this morning.
Oh, and this message is also going out because I know the Star Trek cruise is coming up here. If any of you guys are on the cruise listening to us, please have a great time.
Yeah, you jackasses.
Yeah, send pictures. You better take some pictures, damn it.
Bon voyage.
And make sure you post them, because we wish we were there. Oh, my God, to be giving this podcast with all of us sitting by the pool somewhere.
That was so good.
Oh.
I don't know. I'm sort of on the opposite side. Let me just say, remember to wash your hands. Be careful.
Yeah, that's a thing. They said that if you treat it like a regular flu, you should be okay, which means to stay 3 feet away from anybody who's coughing or hacking up a lung, to also wash your hands, but not just casually wash your hands.
Yeah.
Like I see some people doing in the restroom.
10 seconds.
You get your hands wet, you put soap on your hands, and you scrub them everywhere under your fingernails and everything for about 20 seconds. And you can give the time to yourself by singing happy birthday to you. So if you sing that twice, that comes up to about 20 seconds. Then rinse your hands.
I need to do double than what I normally do, because I don't do it long enough then.
No, it's 20 seconds, they said, it's the overall. And if you don't have soap and water, they said the next best bet is hand sanitizer. Also the same 20-second rule. It says it's better than not having anything. So those are some pro tips for you guys out there to stay safe. We don't want any of our listeners here getting sick.
Right. And remember, don't touch your face.
No, anything you're yep,
I don't touch
nose.
his face anyway. I'm not even in the same room as him.
And speaking of getting sick, we got I'm sure you've all heard about Kenneth Mitchell coming down with ALS.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's just
I'm a big fan of that guy's work. I'm just barely, like everyone else, I haven't seen anything that he's done. I mean, just except for that, some of the short stuff in Discovery he's so good at what he does.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of upset that he wasn't a long-lasting character, although they brought him back in another one. I like the guy's work so much. It's really hard to hear this story.
Yeah, he's been on Nancy Drew, too.
Yeah, that's sad information. And thanks, Patrick, for bringing us right into the news segment here. And this is also an unfortunate time for a 5-year anniversary. You want to speak on that, Heather?
Yeah, so February 27th marked the 5-year anniversary of Leonard Nimoy's death. And we're just so sad that he passed away. I mean, it's so incredibly heart-wrenching when a good person is taken from this world. So we miss him.
It was especially hard, too, because he was just dropping all these wonderful little nuggets on Twitter. It was so beautiful, the things he left on Twitter. I don't even know how long he was actually on Twitter, but it felt like it was just the beginning of Twitter. And then Leonard Nimoy was on it, and he was saying these wonderful things all the time. It was so nice. It was like you had Grandpa Nimoy up there on Twitter talking to you, dropping knowledge. And it was really sweet.
Yeah, he's
it's really unfortunate to hear. It's just a sad story.
Yeah, Nathan and I were at work when we worked together. We were at work when we heard the news, and both of us were just in tears.
Yeah, he's the one person that, because the anniversary was coming up in Vegas, and it was rumored that he was going to be there, and
we were excited,
all set, to get his autograph and his signature, because he's one of the few people that I have never met, and he passed away, so it was even more impactful for me that I didn't get a chance to see him. His knowledge, I think that out of the characters on the original series, I think he was like my most favorite. And then, of course, then you have Shatner and Uhura and everybody along the lines. I admired Uhura for totally different reasons. But with Nimoy, he made me to chase after logic. And it's almost like being raised by a surrogate family, because you have Scotty got me into computers, and it's the whole family was very impactful to me.
It really is a family thing, because for me, I grew up watching the original series, and I've got a father, and he's a great guy. He's a nice guy, but a completely different guy than Shatner is. His character is Captain Kirk. And that's a positive role model that I wasn't exposed to until I watched Star Trek. And then you've got Leonard Nimoy, and Spock was, the reasoning of the character Spock is just one wonderful thing to grow up and getting that. And I completely can resonate with all of that. And then you hear about the actor himself, the man, and you realize this guy was a cool cat. He really was.
He's done things that I don't think a lot of people are even aware of, if we can take a moment to dive into him as a person. When the animated series came out, they did not want to have Chekhov or Uhura to be a part of it. They felt they weren't necessary. And Leonard Nimoy said, if you don't have them on, they're the crew, I'm not going to do the animated series. He stood firm on that. And that's how they brought them in to do the voiceovers for it, the voice acting. And it shows it just the type of person he was. He stood on that foundation. So what an incredible, marvelous human being. And the world is dimmer without him.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very true.
And did you guys know that he played Tevyev in Fiddler on the Roof?
Yeah. Yeah, he was also in several Mission Impossible. Oh, another little side note trivia. He was also in Mission Impossible, the original series. And for those that don't know, Mission Impossible was filmed in the same lot location as Star Trek, because they were both being produced at the time by Desilu Studios, which is Lucille Ball. And she's extremely instrumental in Star Trek being on the air, because Lucille Ball put her weight behind it and wanted it on. So they didn't want to upset Lucille Ball, so they put it out there.
It's too bad Lucille Ball, never got a cameo on Star Trek. It would have been kind of appropriate if she would have showed up, even as just like a minor character in the background. It would have been neat to see that.
That would have been awesome.
Going back to Leonard Nimoy, another show he did, I think this was in the 70s, In Search Of, which was kind of like a nonfiction documentary where they were exploring various mysteries and unexplained phenomena. Yeah, that was another thing he did.
Well, I enjoyed watching him appear on Fringe, kind of a more recent show that was done by the Bad Robot guys. Enjoyed the heck out of that.
Yeah, and you have Zachary Quinto that picked up the mantle and started the In Search Of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is really friggin' cool.
In the 80s, when Shatner was, doing his TJ Hooker show, Leonard Nimoy also guest starred on that for an episode or two, which was
no, I didn't realize that.
See. Yeah.
I think that was the only time I actually saw that show, because my parents were like, hey, you got to watch it. Spock's going to be on this show too. I'm like, oh, okay.
Right. Sometimes that's the only reason to watch.
Yeah.
And of course, William Shatner had to do his slide across the roof of the car, slide across the hood of the car and tackle him.
Too bad he didn't break a limb.
Hey, I'm going to say it. Just thank you. Hold on a second. Wait, I got this guy here. He just teleported in. He's telling me I did not tell everyone that this show is being brought to you by Section 31. You happy? Can you go? Thank you.
They're pretty pushy, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, if you're going to send somebody to my room while I'm half dressed, just send a female or something, please.
That's my fault, Nathan. He was here and I told him to go to your place.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I got to talk to you about something. So now comes the exciting part. Has everyone seen the show?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
So good.
So exciting.
Yes, it was so exciting and just a lot of interesting plot twists.
It was a juicy episode for this series. Very, very filled with stuff.
Okay, and one of the moments for me was when Hugh and Picard meet face to face. The emotion in Hugh's face. I mean, it was plastered all over his face. It was such a touching moment.
Oh, I agree. Yes. Yeah. And also the way Picard reacted too.
Mm-hmm.
It was like seeing an old friend.
Well, it was neat watching because Picard was freaking out. He's going to go to the Borg ship. Locutus comes back. Like, this is the most terrifying thing ever. And he had a freak out moment. He almost fell off the platform because there's no handrails right there.
He had like a panic. He had a panic attack. He had some PTSD going on, some flashbacks, and he had a panic attack.
I mean, handrails apparently are irrelevant. You're going to be assimilated if you fall off or not. But
right.
He came around. He saw what Hugh was doing with this reclamation project, and it was so cool to see him react this way, and how wonderful the humanitarian aspect of it, and to see how proud he was of what he was doing.
And I had to go back and think about this, but this is literally the first time he's been on a Borg cube since Best of Both Worlds, because even in First Contact, Picard battled the Borg that had, invaded the Enterprise, but he never actually stepped foot on the Borg cube in that movie. Yeah, at the beginning they destroyed it. So this is literally the first time in decades that he's been on a Borg cube.
There's a theme of vulnerability in this episode because Picard was vulnerable coming back to the Borg cube. Soji was vulnerable figuring out that, how old is she now? And
3 years.
And Dr. Jurarti was vulnerable because she's a freak. But killer freak girl, who happens to like captains who play soccer.
Can we say stone face killer? I mean, like, she was just like,
watch out for her.
And let's not forget Raffi. I mean, her emotional thing, that was so impactful to see. And I get it, because in the service, there's times when you are mentally incapacitated, or you've been out for a night tear or something, and you're kind of drunk. But yet, when the moment calls for it, you can get clarity until that moment was over. And she did it perfectly. I mean, she was wasted, but she could gather her wits enough to get him in diplomatic pass. And then after that, she was done.
She is an amazing asset to this crew. I mean, Raffi has got skills. It's good to see her skill set in action.
Oh, she's an incredible intelligence officer. Yeah. I mean, the way that she handled that woman.
It's going to be great to see her if she gets sober. She's going to be such an amazing officer. Just the fact the morning after she's hung over and she's just like all of a sudden, why do they need this? Why do they keep her around? Why are they looking into this android? Why are the Romulans need? She's like, oh, of course, she's thinking, and it's a natural instinct built in within Raffi that she's got to know stuff and she's wondering about things. And when she doles it out, I think she's a lot sharper, natural.
Yeah. And during that scene, too, I thought it was hilarious when Elnor said, the tension between you two makes me uneasy. Oh, my God. For someone who is like so naive, he sure does see a lot.
Yes, he does.
He does.
He probably smelt it.
Oh.
That was the other character. That was Vup. We're not talking about Vup. He can smell it. Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah, that after sex smell,
Oh my!
The thing I was wondering about Dr. Jurarti hooking up with Rios, I'm just like, how do you know that wasn't just a screensaver holodeck emergency sport hologram? Because just playing soccer in the middle of the ship is like, wait a minute, how do you know he's not just another hologram? How do you know?
Maybe she thought he was.
Yeah, I was just like, well, maybe it doesn't matter when you're when you're at that point in your life. Does it really matter? But I was just like, it could not be Rios. That could be some another hologram on the ship.
Completely.
I'm still waiting for a scene that's bound to occur later on where they have a need to activate the EMH, and
he shows up shirtless.
Then the truth about about her is going to come out.
Yeah, I was surprised that there was no EMH at all this episode, and I think we've seen an EMH every single episode before this.
Yeah.
Or some version of one.
I'm looking to Raffi to be able to out her, because I think if she was in a full capacity and when she was explaining what happened, I think Raffi would have probably picked up on the inconsistencies there.
She would sniff that out in a second.
Yeah, and that was really good when Raffi was going through that, and she's like, why? Why would they want her? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because she's right. I mean, they could have just as easily, killed her up front, but then they wouldn't have gotten their bigger objective. Although I still wonder how many planets are out there in that big galaxy that meet the criteria of 2 red moons.
I mean, there's got to be like a half dozen of them, right? I mean, 2 red moons and electricity activity. That's like a Starbucks, They're on every corner.
But when the sister was listening, I guess she had GPS on because she was like, okay, got it. We know which one it is.
They felt like that was like, it must be such a rare thing. We probably need to get an astronomer to come on and tell us that this is actually a rare thing. And it's kind of like, because they reacted like, oh my God, that's it. Bang.
Well, you know what I thought? I mean, when she looked up and saw the moons and the electrical activity, to me, it seemed like a primordial, like a planet in its infancy.
How do we even know it's a planet? I mean, that could be on some kind of, it could have been just a decoration for all we know.
Or some Death Star roaming the galaxy.
Yeah, it was very strange. It could have just been a part of the dream that is maybe thrown in there as a what do you call it? Subterfuge, decoy. Thank you. Yeah.
There's still a lot of open questions about Soji. Like in terms of, was she actually created as an adult, and this is just a some sort of implanted memory or vision, or was she actually created as maybe a younger person and then just through accelerated growth?
No, Narek sort of explained it. So she was created 3 years ago, like everything says it was, but the memories, the whole point of the memories is to get rid of the inconsistencies, because she thinks she's human, but she's not human, hence all the knowledge that she knows that just comes up and she doesn't know where it comes up from. And the dreams are to get those 2 inconsistencies to match, so that way it doesn't affect her, or she doesn't notice it, or she doesn't realize that she's like not human.
Yeah, I see some of that, but I also look at this and go, Maddox wasn't the best android expert in the galaxy. I mean, when we first saw him in Next Generation, definitely didn't know what the F he was doing. So I don't know if he's as good as he seemed to be, but I bet it's a little bit of copy paste on the code.
That's how you become an expert, though. I mean, the only way you become an expert is by making all the mistakes you can make in a narrow field.
True. I can agree with that, but I'm just thinking maybe why the dreams are happening, not just because the inconsistencies of how old she is, but I bet there's copied code in her head that sees her as a kid.
Yeah, so the true thing that happened is when she looked up and saw the 2 red moons and the electricity. That was probably when she was initially created and she was still lying on the table, I'm guessing, looking up.
But if you also remember, when Maddox was laying there on the table, he said that we did it. He said that you, me, and Soon. So I'm thinking it's a possibility that Soon also had a chance, because she said she couldn't see the face of the person who was working on her. And that might be a way to bring Brent Spiner back as Dr. Soon somewhere along the line, especially if he had a hand in making him.
Well, Spiner's going to be on next week's Ready Room, so
that's a good point.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's a good possibility, I think.
Yeah, but Dr. Soong actually died in one of the TNG episodes.
Doesn't mean that they were working together at some point in time.
Well,
I mean, it doesn't necessarily
that's a good pickup.
Yeah, they may have worked together at some point earlier in their careers, and maybe the design of Soji is maybe that's older than 3 years. I think there's been multiple versions over the decades.
I thought the reference to Dr. Soong was just an acknowledgement that he built on Dr. Soong's legacy. That's the way I took it.
A good way of looking at it as well. That's definitely a good way of looking at it. Well, this is something else that I kind of picked up on the show. Is that's why I don't have one in my house. RUBIX Cubes or Cubes of Death.
Right?
Yeah.
Someone had gas that day, let me tell you.
Did you notice it was the same cubicle configuration that was in the beginning of Nemesis when all the Romulan senators was gassed out, except the gas was green and not red?
Yeah.
I just thought it was like a futuristic Rubik's Cube.
It's a killer cube is what it is.
Yeah.
The thing he put inside was because the first time he did it, there was a figurine that came out.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Yeah, that seems similar to the effect they used in Nemesis, like you were saying. There was another thing that caught my eye, and I don't know if it was just a throwaway line or if there's any significance to it, but at one point when Picard was on the cube and with you, there was a page announcement in the background about some sort of Chroniton issue, and if you're in a certain sector, evacuate. So I wasn't sure if that was a throwaway line or if that's a hint that there's some sort of time travel thing that might be coming.
I don't know, but one thing too that I want to bring up is when they were getting back to the dream sequence and everything, when they were in the room together and they're sitting there and they're acting like they're alone and they're, getting all like close and everything, dude, you could see through those windows. Like we saw later on, she's trying to get out. You could see perfectly well through those windows. So they saw all of that. Just wanted to point that out.
Ba-dum-bum.
Okay.
But I guess they didn't come to realize that any attempt on her life would trigger her, because she pounded through the floor and got out of there and almost nothing flat.
I don't think they expected that to happen.
Hulk smash.
Yeah. Or they thought that red smoke was going to get her before she was able to bang her way through the floor.
Bang her who?
I think that's what they were definitely counting on, that they'd be able to basically kill her before she could fully activate.
Now, what I'm looking forward to is I hope we see Elnor again, because, he dropped out here like a friggin' ninja to protect them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I was like, that kind of made me sad that he decided to stay behind. I mean, I get it, but it's like, okay, so what's going to happen with his character now?
Oh, he'll be back. He's going to slice and dice. He is the Ginsu knife of Romulans. He slices, he dices, he cuts right through this Romulan. I mean, he's a badass. He's going to be fine.
He's the Julia Child of the...
Yes. Do they have a galactic Uber?
I think they could just beam them right through. I think they'll probably, because we saw in the tease they're going to be stuck with the tractor beam, but I bet they could beam him back pretty easily.
Well, maybe.
And what's up with the Sikarian transport? That thing was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yes.
All the Borg cubes have them now.
Right. It's the latest thing.
So you got to pay for the upgrade when you buy one, so...
Yeah, I was looking into that a little bit. That's kind of like a reference back to a Voyager episode. Mm-hmm. There was a planet that had that device, and Voyager was trying to use it as a shortcut to get home, but it ended up not working out. Something I think it was related to the fact that there was some characteristic in the planet's cross that was needed to amplify the effect to make it work efficiently. But evidently, the Borg figured out how to make it work without the planet.
Yeah, right. It wasn't until the Ready Room when they said that the Sikarians were on Next Gen that I realized what episode that was.
Yeah. When they said it in the Ready Room, that's when I heard it too. I was like, oh, that's what that's where this is. Okay.
Yeah.
They put little drops of they're doing stuff for the fans, because you hear them acknowledge this little bit here, this little bit there, they drop the Tranya on you and little references like that. That may sound sci-fi, but if you were a Star Trek fan for life, you know these little references.
Yeah,
well, just like when Picard was walking down the hall, you saw some of the reclaimed saying Locutus.
Yeah.
That was cool.
Oh, yeah.
It was creepy, but cool.
Yeah.
Little
Yes.
creepy.
It's like,
Very
down,
creepy.
hey, look at this, you know.
What's up, HomeBorg?
Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like us at the conventions. Roddenberry.
They're all flashing Borg gang signs and
Totally.
If this was the conventions, they would be following him into the bathroom.
right.
True.
Speaking of whiff, the amusing story I heard about Whoopi Goldberg. One time she had went to the ladies' room and a person got into a stall next to her and passed a paper underneath the stall wall, said, "Could you autograph this for me?"
No.
So
Really?
she said she had a water bottle with her, and so she sprinkled water on it and handed it back, and it went, "Are you kidding?" And she's like, "Are you kidding?"
Oh my god.
That's hilarious. Oh my God.
Wow.
Whoa.
What a weird event.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some places you just don't bother a celebrity, and one of them is, when they're taking a dump. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's an overly aggressive fan there.
So those of you who are listening, and if you're on the cruise, do not follow anyone into the restrooms.
Not unless they give you the wink, wink, finger, come around, come and follow me.
I don't know, man. I don't think I could get down in a restroom.
Yeah.
It's too weird.
But
Yeah,
at
you'd be
least
not
surprised.
recommended.
it's close to cleanup. I'm telling you, I can't wait till Blondie gets caught there. It's just it would ruin my sense of feeling of justice that she could kill Maddox and just there's no repercussion for it and no one finds out or anything.
Yeah, like how does the ship's AI not know?
How did she expect nobody to find out? They're in such close quarters with each other.
Yeah, and it's gonna come out.
I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't a little bit more discussion about Dr. Maddox among the rest of the crew. I mean, you heard Jurarti and Picard talk about it a little bit, but you didn't hear like the other crew members bring him up at all or ask about it.
Yeah, it was just really fishy to me because,
Yeah.
next gen, the computer was like all knowing of everything, right? How does it not know that Maddox was poisoned?
I guess no one's asked it.
He must have been really annoying, and that's why nobody asked questions.
Well, yeah, he might have it programmed to, because that thing would always sneak up on him and bother him, It's like, unless he needs a piece of shrapnel ripped out of his shoulder, I bet he's got it on mostly disabled mode.
Well,
And
he tries, but they always keep showing up when he doesn't want them to.
Yeah. The other side of it is, I suspect that Dr. Jurarti has some little secret computer coding going on in the background that we're not seeing because Daystrom Institute is where they get all the computers from in Starfleet. So I think she could probably, just kind of keep it at bay, as it were.
I'd like to see that.
In medbay.
Yeah, I bet you some true medical emergency will occur in one of the later episodes, and then they'll have to activate the EMH, and then the cat will be out of the bag.
And then, oh, by the way, Blondie over here killed Maddox. Yeah.
Now, there's one other thing that kind of bothered me a little on it, is that when Raffi came out and secured the diplomatic credentials, before she came out, you can see she was in distress. She was in really bad distress. And the fact that Picard didn't inquire after her or go in there to see her, Rios did, but he didn't. And the fact that after she did it, he kind of clapped and like applauded her. And that's not something I think in her mental state that she needed for them to clap with such exuberance. So I would like to think it's because Picard is being such singly focused on his mission that he just didn't occur to him to do that. I know sometimes in life when you come across somebody that seems always so strong, you always assume that they can handle everything, so you don't inquire. So I'm hoping that's the case, and I'm hoping he gets a chance to explain himself. But as somebody who has been in charge of other Marines, that kind of bothered me a little because you need to look after your troops.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, remember, though, he hasn't seen her in forever, so he doesn't know the extent of her addiction or her alcoholism. As far as we know, so maybe he doesn't realize that she's as bad as she is.
Well, that's a good point, Pat. I'm hoping that we'll be able to see that part, but it'll be a while, especially if they do the angle that Fred said that they time traveled to where or when that would be. Wait, they said they're going Rua Pente. If I remember correctly, Rua Pente is where Captain Kirk was imprisoned with Bones.
think it was spelt slightly differently.
I think it was like Nepente.
Retha Pente or something like that. Yeah, I don't think it was Rua.
Well, it's in Klingon
I think it
space.
began with an N. Nepente.
And who knows? Maybe we get a chance to see Worf if it's in Klingon space because they were able to keep 7 under for so long. So, or maybe we see Riker and Troy this time.
Could be.
Well, we definitely see Riker and Troy in the next episode because if you look at the Ready Room teaser trailer, they showed a little bit of that.
I didn't see Troy, though. I saw Riker.
Well, they're together. They're married.
Oh, that's true.
That doesn't mean she's not off visiting her mother.
No, I mean, she wouldn't visit her mother that much. No, she'd be there.
No. And Mom would be there because she still had the hots for Picard, so...
Oh boy!
If only Major was still alive to play. Play her mother,
Loxana. Troy.
Yeah.
Love that character. She was so good.
She really was on it.
I just looked up the spelling of that planet. It is an N. It's Nepente, and it turns out it's a real word too. It's defined as a potion used by the ancients to induce forgetfulness, pain, or sorrow.
You
just broke up there, Fred.
Nepente is also a real word. It's defined as a potion used by the ancients to induce forgetfulness of pain or sorrow.
I'm glad you cleared that up because when you cut out, it sounded like you said it was a potion from the anals. And I was like, what? I'm like, no. We're not expressing any glands here, people. Nope, sorry. And I killed the mood.
I don't know how to cover from that. That's
so I don't know. Like I said, maybe there's some symbolism to the name they picked.
Maybe the planet is intoxicating, like a potion.
We can tie also another part in a loose end that we had dangling that Fred had brought up a couple of weeks ago is whether or not if Soji and Daj, their mother, was a program that was a part of them or not. And we see that the broadcast actually was coming from outside the Borg because what's-his-face was listening in and saw the outgoing log that says every time it lasts about, what was it?
70 seconds.
70 seconds.
70
that's
seconds.
And it's precisely 70 seconds. Yeah.
So it is in an internal program, so the signal is coming from somewhere.
And she was trying to stay awake. I cringed when she took those scissors and hit her hand with them.
That was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was trying to because that kind of triggered that something's going on. Even pictures I made as a little girl was 3 months. Yeah,
and then she goes and scans everything and tears the whole place up, which, by the way, when they come back to the room and you see the room completely messed up and everything, it basically looked like Fred's Tribbles when they go and they party in my room and then I come in and it's a complete and utter disaster. That was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, oh my God, Fred, your Tribbles are partying again. We need to talk.
Well, hey, Tribbles need to have a good time too, right?
Tribbles like to party.
They need to stay away from that Romulan ale.
For sure.
And please stop with the modification.
We'll just give them some of the Klingon blood wine. Huh?
No, don't do that, because the last time one of them was sitting on my desk and I heard it go, feed me. So
yeah, they're really pushy.
Maybe we'll just give them some of Picard's vintage. Some wine from his vineyard.
No, because then I'll hear one in the room on date night going, make it so.
Either that or you'll hear it. Either that or you'll hear it be like, brr, brr, brr. And your date will be like, what's that? Going back to the phone call, when she's trying to stay awake and she's fallen asleep from her mom, the thought that crossed my head when that was going on is like, oh my God, that must be one boring bitch right there. For her to fall asleep that fast. Dang.
I wonder if that sleeping time. Well, no, because she had a dream when she was with the Romulan trader guy. So I wonder, and why also that the thing picked up when Dodge was in trouble. I wonder how come it didn't pick up that Soji was in trouble. Remember when she said, something's going on? She says, find Picard, he'll keep you safe.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't happen with Soji. And what is it that they're trying to find out? That's a question of Romulans as well as I have.
Well, you know what what I thought was interesting though too is, obviously Narek is there to, pull this information out of Soji, but I mean, He was visibly shaken when he had to, like, kill her.
He fell for her. He's totally fallen for her.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be some really good, Robot Poontang. Sorry for being so crass, but
they've got sex robots now. They're very expensive and very clumsy. So by the 24th century or whatever, Bangbots are probably the bomb,
But she's Data's daughter, and she's versed in multiple techniques.
Right. So she's programming versed in multiple techniques, yeah.
Well, plus she's not really a robot. She's basically an artificially created biological person, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Only her brain is the computer. Everything else is organic.
Well, the other side of that is she is the ultimate cool thing for a Romulan to get into because she is a secret.
Literally.
Romulans are all about secrets. So it's like the most wonderful thing to get into is this secret that is Soji.
Again, literally.
Or mentally. Because it's mentally and physically. I mean, come on. Yeah.
It's probably that plus the forbidden fruit. You're growing up and everyone's telling you, how horrible that is and don't do it. And he's like, oh, I'm going to get kinky.
I'm going to get some of that. Yeah.
And that's what he said as he went down on her, forbidden fruit.
Well, you know what the name of the episode is? The name of the episode is
The
Impossible Box.
Right?
Yes. The Impossible Box.
It may be possible.
It's Kim Possible.
Hey.
Oh, my.
Ooh.
It's Kim Possible, baby.
Another thing that was interesting is when you and Picard were talking, you
Who?
basically not you.
Okay, I thought you said Ewan. I was like, Ewan McGregor was not in this.
No. As in the Borg Reclamation Director,
right? Hugh.
He had some knowledge that something was going on because he recognized Narek as being some sort of a Romulan spy. I mean, he wasn't able to put all the pieces together, but he knew something was going on, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I think he has much more control over that Borg cube than what they think, and I think he's going to use that to be able to get him and Elnor to escape. And also some bit of side acting there. Did you notice that the emotion that played on the Reclaimed when that one was looking in the mirror and seeing their face again?
Yeah.
That I literally got choked up. I mean, that was
Yeah.
The thing that you get now in wonderful HD production is the emotions. You see the reactions on actors who really can bring it on screen. Up close and personal, and you see it, the subtlety and the emotion. It's such detail. It's so good. Like when we saw Narek running out of that room and he's visibly, just shaken by the whole thing. Yeah. Or when the Borg saw its face and the tear came down, or just even you get a close up of Soji looking and reacting to that video. I love all this quality we get when we watch the shows now. It's so good. It's just amazing.
And I love the change in perspective we get on who the Borg are, that they're not these monsters, that they are victims.
Yeah.
They were assimilated.
Wait, they are not victims. They are survivors. There's a difference. Okay, sorry.
Ooh. Go, girl. I like that.
They're survivors.
Girl, awesome.
I touched a nerve, apparently, girl.
I'll be done with that. They are rocking. I mean, because they've gone through a lot, and they're still going to go through a lot. They're going to be going through a lot. Yeah, totally agree.
But that's solid direction and solid acting because you have an enemy that was as well feared and disliked as the Borg, and you're able to get the other side of that emotion, and you actually feel for them. And you, like you said, you forget they were real people.
But like Hugh said, even though they're XBs, they're still, the most hated people in the universe. So there's a long way to go for them to be accepted within mainstream society.
Yeah.
So again, here Star Trek is touching on xenophobia, racism, and dealing with those topics in a way that's accessible. Yeah.
Empathy, right there.
Yeah.
And trust. There's a big thing about trusting too. And I love how they'll bring the camera into the close up of somebody grabbing their hand take my hand, visibly take my hand and trust, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think back to Voyager and how much time and effort went into getting 7 of 9 to fit into the crew.
Yeah.
And if who knows how many ex-Borgs are on that cube, it's probably going to take just a huge investment of time and energy to be able to get all those people to fit back into society. Not only do they have to adapt physically, but just mentally, just processing what they went through. And
well, Jerry Ryan was saying on the Ready Room that, because you know how like people online are complaining that they've never seen a Federation who does bad things to whatever, blah blah blah. Jerry Ryan was like, no, that's not the case, because in Voyager, here she was a Borg. The Borg had taken away her humanity, taken away her choice, and then she gets on Voyager, and Janeway kind of did the same thing, took away her identity and forced her into a whole new life. It just shows that, that Starfleet isn't the perfection that we placed up on that pedestal to be. They did do things that were questionable, maybe for the right reasons, or for the right ideals, but not necessarily completely thought through. I mean, forcing Seven to become human, what choice did she have in that?
I think in Janeway's defense, though, the way she was looking at it, if you go back to those early episodes, she looked at it as, the Borg took away Annika's humanity and basically turned her into 7 of 9. So Janeway thought she was doing a good thing by helping 7 of 9 kind of reclaim her original human heritage. And
I completely 100% agree with that. But at the same time, but if you look at it from the way Jerry Ryan was saying it, was that 7 was looking at it as Janeway was doing the same thing to her that the Borg did to her.
Yeah. And I can see that too. Yeah.
But looking at the conversation between Picard and Hugh said that our queen is a Romulan, and
he was joking when he said, he totally was joking when he said that.
But I think it was a cry for help, because the Borg are still victims and powerless. They're not free. Mm-hmm. He's asking Picard, we want to be free. We want to be free totally. That's all the Borg. They're just people. They just want to do their thing. You can look at them as killer monsters, but they're just people, and they don't want to be experimented on. They don't want to be harvested for parts. I think it's a cry for just, we need help. We want to do this on our own.
That's all the Romulans are really doing, is just harvesting them for parts. I mean, they're not trying to rehab them at all. That's what Hugh's for.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are a lot of mysteries on that Borg cube, because it's not clear what the Romulans' ultimate goal is for the cube. Like you said, are they just harvesting the Borg for their parts, and do they have any long-term intent of reacclimating the ex-Borgs, or do they just see them living out their lives on the cube, or a lot of unanswered questions.
Do we think that the Romulans see the Borg as synths, like they see Soji?
That's a good question. You're going to have to ask them. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a good question.
If they see them as being a synth, then, they have no use for them. So they wouldn't treat them with any kind of dignity or respect.
And they mentioned that too in one of the earlier episodes, how Romulans see all, androids, synths, Borg, anyone that is, technology related, as lesser than. So I feel bad for the Borg, who are trying to regain their humanity in a cube where most of the Romulan look at them as, second-class citizens.
Maybe that's why they have them segregated like the way they do, because I don't recall any of the reclaimed hanging out with Romulans. And they have some of them that have reclaimed, and they had a whole area just for the Romulans that were reclaimed. That's where Soji was. Even the Romulans that were reclaimed, they have an express room by themselves.
I think you get what you're saying, that the Romulans, they don't hang out together with the Borg.
Maybe we have to get some help from the Klingon IT department. Huh?
Yes.
Well, speaking of the IT thing, I thought it was pretty funny when Soji was sitting there scanning everything, and it kept saying 3 years and 3 years, and she's getting frustrated and smashing frames and throwing things. I'm like, dude, troubleshooting. Scan something is more than 3 years old and see if your scanner works. I mean, you don't have... True. It's like your computer not working, and then you kick your computer or throw it out the window because, something's not working. It's like not the way to troubleshoot.
But she was scanning things that she thought were more than 3 years old. She just didn't know that they weren't more than 3 years old.
I mean, like something from the Borg, or maybe like the clothes that the Borg cube people gave her that she...
Yeah, the furniture or something.
Yeah, something that's totally not connected with her or any of her stuff, you know?
That's true, because like some of the things that, like the clothes, maybe they would be less than 3 years. So
Exactly. The chair that was in there that they gave her or something, you know, the desk.
A wall of the Borg ship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that her going through that didn't trigger her right then and there, because that's a hell of an impact for your mind.
Yeah.
That you find out that you're 3.
Well, what does it actually mean when they're triggered? Because does it mean they go full on, you know, bonanza, or they just mean they're aware of what they're doing and they're going to go completely? What does that mean?
They go full on Kung Fu monk.
I think triggered means that their physical abilities kick in.
It's like they're in physical harm, or they're in, you know, some kind of harm, and that's when they get triggered. And triggered means that everything in their body, all of the computer components turn on, so they are able to go, say, ninja on people.
Full android ninja.
Yes.
Yeah, but even after Daj was activated, she still didn't know the whole truth about herself. So it was just the physical, you know, the fight or flight response.
Yeah, that's
that part might be sandboxed, where she's not supposed to know her origin in order to save what the Romulans say is their nest. But it looks like it's like taking a governor off of a high performance car. Most cars, when you buy them, they have a governor on it that you can't exceed a certain miles per hour. But if you disable that part in the computer, you're flying down the road going over 200 miles an hour easy.
I didn't know Gavin Newsom was on my car.
When you first learn how to do that, you don't know how to control the vehicle because you're not used to going at that speed. So I'm thinking that's the same thing with her. She winds up having all of this ability, but not quite sure how to access it. Just like when Daj wanted to find Picard, and the computer voice that was telling her says, just relax, do this, do that.
That's a good point too, by the way. When Soji was going through this and freaking out, who did she talk to about this? She didn't call her mom. She didn't talk to Hugh. She called the creeper dude.
She likes him for some reason. I guess he's got a calming effect on her.
Oh my God.
He has been putting a lot of input.
Either that or he's giving her the good D.
What?
I said either that or he's got good D.
It can't be that good.
You mean you're saying great data? I get it.
Yes, he's giving her great data.
She needs input.
He's inserting the USB drive.
Well, at the very least, she knew that he was good at dealing with mysteries.
Well, she says her default is trusting, and she just trusts the guy for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, everyone watching is like, why are you trusting this dude? But she just does. And I think that's, her vulnerability isn't that she's dreaming something in her unconscious. Her vulnerability is she's too trusting.
Right. And even Hugh said, this guy was only here for 3 weeks, and he's obviously, someone not to be trusted. And you're telling me that Soji had no friends, no close confidants or anything for the whole time she was there. And in the last 3 weeks, she finally found someone she could talk to.
And their relationship seemed much deeper than 3 weeks.
Yeah, it did.
There was a connection there that was definitely deeper than 3 weeks. So I don't know, what kind of like mind games he played on her.
Maybe what the sister said was true. Maybe she was also using him subconsciously to try to get information and find out.
I just thought when they were in bed, he fiddled with the right, digits.
Literally.
That's how it works.
My. Them Romulans in there fiddling.
Yes. You're saying that's what he did. He told her, says, I have hardware that will interface with your software.
Yes.
It's an upgrade.
Right.
Maybe there's a secret Romulan mind meld technique that we haven't heard of before.
I don't think so. I don't think mind melding has anything to do with this.
Melding something. We have devolved into a sex show, guys.
It's not our fault. This is what they're giving us. They're giving us, the guys that banging the android chick. I mean, and then the other woman that we think might be an android is banging the captain. I mean, everyone's banging. It's like
and the sister's trying to bang the brother.
Right. I mean, she's that creep factor is huge. Yeah.
And the doctor's banging Rios. That's creepy.
Yeah. And the only one's not getting banged is
Picard.
Raffi.
Picard. Yeah.
And Raffi.
Raffi's not getting any. Yeah.
Well, Raffi's too drunk. I mean, that would be rape.
The kid's too young.
Yeah.
And
kid's
the
not
kid
getting
too.
any.
Yeah,
I don't think Elnor would know what to do with a naked body in front of him.
Well, he'd be perfectly candor about it.
Please choose to live.
Yeah, right.
He's coming at her with a different kind of sword.
That was an awesome last phrase.
Hey, don't
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't assume that Elnor is heterosexual. He may be gay.
True,
or he may be non-binary, so someone may be coming at him with a sword.
Sword play.
Or one of each.
Sword play.
Yeah, sword
play. Speaking of play, one thing I was kind of wondering about, if Narek's big sister hadn't been around, do you think that scene might have played out a little bit differently? Because I was kind of thinking that he might have been inclined to keep Soji around, and I'm not sure how, but just string her along and not try to kill her at that point.
No, I think the Romulans' hatred of synth goes far beyond his love for Soji.
Yeah, and I think that's another example of, like, I don't think he gave her his real name. I think he gave her a fake real name to make her think that, because his sister was listening, and if his sister heard that, she'd be pissed.
Yeah, I wonder about that, because he knew she was listening.
Or maybe he gave her the real name anyway because he knew he was going to kill her.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Figures, what harm is it? I'm going to kill her anyway.
But if the sister heard that, and the sister knows what that's for.
And the sister probably said, like, well, you're going to kill her anyway, so.
Well, the sister already said that she knew he was in love with her.
Yeah, but he didn't admit to it.
Yeah, sharing the real name would not be that much of a surprise to her. She would probably just be thinking, "You're such an idiot,"
That's probably true.
You've fallen in love with this sin.
What will be a good surprise is going to be when Soji meets him again, because now she's fully aware of what he was, what he did.
There's going to be some ass whooping going on.
Yeah.
And she's activated, so she could kick ass.
Yeah, I'm wondering, can he charm his way out of that? Oh, boy.
Nope.
Yep.
No digits will work there.
She didn't do the superhero landing when she came through the ceiling. I was hoping that she would do the superhero landing.
Maybe next time.
That would have been cool.
That's funny. She kind of did, but it wasn't full on superhero landing, but it was kind of similar.
What are the odds that she actually landed on that particular deck? Because she was falling through decks, right?
Right.
Just to be the one they came into.
They were chasing her. They
well, Hugh probably calculated the rate that she was falling and the
you can calculate that. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still pretty amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it's not clear how many floors she actually went through. I kind of assumed it was just like one or two. But...
Well, she was in the center of the ship, so she might have been looking for a bathroom.
Bum, bum, bum.
Now, what's going to be interesting, though, is the Romulans on board that ship, whether or not they know that you had a hand in doing what he did.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they do. They do.
Oh, yeah. You saw that in the tease. Hugh's going to be in trouble.
Yep.
But I don't think how much can he be in trouble, because he has access to the whole damn cube. He has root access to everything.
Yeah.
And how did they get to him? Because Elnor was supposed to be right in front of him, chopping everyone down. So if they got to him, what happened to Elnor?
He probably got beamed away at the wrong moment. I can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be an exciting escape one way or the other.
Yeah.
And then next week, we get number 1 next week. Jonathan Frakes.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Not talking about the doggy.
I'm very excited to see him back on screen.
Mm-hmm. Me too. I'm looking forward to that.
It'll be exciting to see him for sure. And in the ready room, did you catch Jerry Ryan's comment where she confirmed that 7 of 9 is going to be back later on this season too?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if it's going to be as soon as the next episode to help save them, because who knows where she's at. So that would be cool, because you know Elnor is going to be saved, because there's no way they could finish Elnor's story already.
No.
They just can't.
So 7 and 9's the Uber driver. Okay, she took Elnor back.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, she's obviously not a very good driver. I mean, look what happened to her first ship. So, I'm saying her license probably got suspended and,
Right.
Yeah, but
she's going to have to call the general to get her insurance renewed.
But that was a small ship. She almost single-handedly took out a bird of prey with that little ship that she had.
The massive laser cannon on that thing, though, that phaser shot just ripped that wing apart. It was a precision shot or something.
Well, wasn't that a combination of her ship and Santiago's ship hitting the wing at the same time? Or was that just Seven's ship?
I remember just seeing one beam. Yeah.
Yep. It was just Seven that cut across the wing, I believe. But that gives me another excuse to watch everything from the beginning again.
Yeah,
right?
I have to go back and look at that scene again. Here's a question for you guys. Do you think this storyline is actually going to be fully resolved at the end of the season? Or do you think it's going to carry over in the next season?
Something's going to carry over. They're going to do that to us. Totally.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're...
Star Trek has never ended a season on a and that's a happy level ever after. It's like there's another season coming and there's going to be a continuation.
But that's usually how TV shows do it, right? It's like they end some parts of it, but they either start something new or they continue it on, so that way you have a reason to watch season 2.
Well, the reason I ask is if you look at Discovery season 1, they pretty much ended, the storyline they were dealing with. And you had...
But they opened another one up.
Exactly. That's why I'm curious whether you think they're actually going to finish up this storyline and we're going to understand, why the Romulans are so paranoid over, artificial life. Are we going to find out who truly was the cause behind the Mars attack, or are those going to be open issues?
How many episodes are left right now?
4.
Four. I don't think they can tie everything in a bow in 4 episodes. It is just too much dangling stuff that's going on. Yeah. So it's definitely going to carry over to it's definitely going to carry over to next season, I believe. Yeah. But I am excited about everything here. Now, unfortunately, I could tell by the amount of Section 31 personnel that just beamed in here that we're getting close to the end of our show here. So, of course, this comes the part where we spread our love. And be careful. We almost turned into a sex podcast.
Oh, jeez. Spreading what now?
We're spreading some love. Is any other podcasts or YouTube channels anybody wants to give a shout out to? Heather?
Bow chicka wow wow. Star Trek After Dark.
A new show coming to CBS All Access, and we mean all access.
One last parting Pic-Hard trivia fact before we wrap up. I did go back and look at the last episode, and remember at the beginning when they were getting the holographic ads that were popping up, for each person.
Oh yeah,
right.
I went back and rewatched it, and the name or the type of ship that Rios has is the Kaplan F-17 speed freighter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because the red bullion was offering to increase the efficiency, because he commented, "Hey, your ship is only operating at 91% efficiency," and the red bullion can get the Kaplan F-17 speed freighter operating at peak efficiency.
I think he's using 9% of that for holograms.
That's probably for certain.
Probably.
That was a good catch. I didn't catch that when I watched that episode multiple times, but I didn't catch that.
And it's funny, you guys are right. When you watch it with the captions on, you catch more of the stuff. Actually, on my second watch of this one, I turned the captions on and was like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
You catch lines that you didn't even hear. Like, I didn't hear Elnor saying out butt or in butt. I couldn't get that joke. But when I watched it with the captions, it was hilarious.
Well, like when Raffi was on the bed and she was talking about her son having a daughter, and she says, someone I'll never know.
Yeah.
But I didn't catch that. I couldn't catch that the first time watching it.
So quietly they say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The important lines like that, you get lost just a little bit on the first watch.
Yeah.
I'll have to remember that to put the captions on. I hadn't even thought about that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, and they're on the bottom of the screen, so they don't take over the screen. The only ones that take over the screen are when they're speaking in Romulan or some other language.
And it's really good when you're taking notes and doing a podcast too, because then you can actually spell stuff correctly.
Yeah, you can. You know not to Google vajazzle and
oh my god! I could not believe they named her that. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
I I loved it when Will Wheaton was joking on the writing room that Snoop Dogg was in the writer's room.
Right?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
That would be funny if he does a guest appearance.
That actress who played Bajazzle, she's really good on NCIS New Orleans.
Yeah, it was like when they posted like, this is who she is. I'm like, oh, that's who she is. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's really good on NCIS New Orleans. I like her a lot.
In a way, I kind of wish they would have kept her and Mr. Valpo around. It would have been interesting to.
I liked Mr. Valpo. I really was sad to lose him. I thought he was cool.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he represented all large men everywhere.
Were you feeling represented, Nathan?
Yes, I was. Also, I had an acute affection for him because his face resembled yours. So.
Gotcha.
Only when you don't have your glasses on, old man.
Well, maybe Mr. Vop will have a twin brother that'll show up. Huh?
There you go.
It's possible because he is a species. So we'll see.
Or he could have a clone.
Or just another one.
He could have a biologic clone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of, we're going to go back to our love. Heather, you have any love to give?
I love all of you.
Oh,
Go on. Say it again.
Heart emoji.
You guys are the best. Thank you so much.
well, that's
my
enough about
love.
us. More about us. How about you there, Carl? You come across any YouTube or podcast that you listen to you want to spread the word about?
Were you talking to me?
Yeah, your name's Paul, isn't it?
Paul? Why do you call me by my last name? What is
Because
this, the
you go by
military?
your honorific title as captain. Just go ahead.
Then call me Captain.
Okay, captain.
There you go.
Anything?
No, not off the top of my head. Just, no. I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay, and you, Fred?
I haven't come across any brand new podcasts, but I did see some Star Trek videos from 2006 that were kind of hilarious. It was kind of like a fan-made mashup where they combined the original Star Trek and Batman from the 60s, and it's just hilarious the way they did that. I mean, they got actors to play certain characters from Star Trek, certain characters from Batman, and just the way they combined the effects from the two shows. I mean, it's definitely not canon, but it's hilarious.
If you have the link, send it over to Rocky so you can put it out on Subspace so people that follow us on their social media can get a giggle out of it too. Because I'd like to see it myself. I think that would be pretty cool. And now we transition over to Rocky. Anything yourself there, sir?
Oh, wow. I just tuned into the Pic-Hard Talk podcast. It's actually spelled PIC-HARD Talk. And it's these two blokes in the UK, and they're just talking the show just like we are. There's something about guys, the British guys. I don't know what it is. Maybe I grew up watching too much Doctor Who. Maybe they just talk funny because they invented the language. And we're the funny ones, but I don't know. I love hearing these guys talk, and they're hilarious. The stuff they bring up is just they're a little perverted like we are, so it kind of works.
I was gonna say with a name like Pic-Hard, right? It sounds more like
That's
a
how it's spelled too.
porncast.
It's how it's spelled, and it's like, oh, what's this podcast? And the only reason I found them, they followed us. So
cool.
I'm like, they followed us on Twitter. I'm like, oh, well, and then like Pic-Hard, I've got to check it out at least to hear what and it's great. It's good stuff.
Sweet.
From the other side of the pond.
Cool. Gotta check that out.
I'm adding them to my podcast list right now.
Yeah, it was pretty good. The one episode I heard was great. And then I heard the official podcast. I was getting through that. They had Frakes on there again. And I love hearing that guy talk. There's something about him. I mean, you just like him being number one, but hearing the guy actually talk about doing shows and stuff is just, I can't not listen to him. It's so good.
Are you guys listening to the Roddenberry one with Rekha Sharma?
No, I have not heard that one. I want to hear that now. I like Rekha.
Yeah, she's amazing. And she's really a lovely person.
Yeah, she is.
In person.
She is.
So I've listened to that a couple times, and they actually do it. It's a video podcast too. So then
I'm watching totally.
I think it's Monday nights at 7. And I think they do it live on Facebook.
That's a possibility.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, that's a good one.
I'll have to dig that one out.
And I actually have some love to give for another podcast. I don't know if those of you who know who Joni is, she's a fixture at most conventions. If you go to Star Trek Las Vegas, yes, she's usually the Orion showgirl. She's been doing her hand in podcast also called the Joe Bro Show. You can find her on.
Wait. I talked over it. Say that again. I'm sorry. What was the name of it?
No worries. It's the Joe Bro Show. She can be found on iTunes and other places. Her and her husband talk about all the challenges of being a cosplay person and how to get your cosplay talent going, as well as history from the first episode about how her and Cole got together all the way through to experiences that she has. So if you get a chance, give a listen.
And it's Joe Bro, Jobro.
That is correct.
The Joe Bro Show.
Joe Bro Show. Now, wait.
That sounds like those rhinos from Doctor Who. Joe Bro Show.
it does. Could you please just hold on? I'm going to tell them that. God dog it. Stop. Just stop. This show was brought to you by Section 31. Why? We don't know. You happy? Get on out of here. Jeez, my knees,
but we like your support.
Why did you send them here, Nathan? Now they're in my quarters.
Yeah, I told them you put paraphernalia inside the Tribbles, so they're going to take a look at that.
Is that what makes them vibrate? Oh.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to check.
It's one of the things that makes them vibrate. Just one of the things, you know?
That and Romulan ale.
Right.
So thanks, everyone, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you guys again next week. So remember, you just don't have a nice week. Make it so.
Starfleet Underground, beaming into a podcast feed near you. Log on to our website at starfleetunderground.com and send your comments and questions to thecollective@starfleetunderground.com. Follow us on Twitter at StarfleetUnderG and on Facebook and Instagram, we're Starfleet Underground.